up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So if you guys are just tuning in for the first time on this channel, we talk about crime, we talk about prison, and we also talk about people that get sentenced to prison, out of guidelines that shouldn't have gotten as much time as they did. Sometimes they're even innocent. And I like to expose that because it's only until we expose it that change will start to happen. And we definitely need change in the prison system and in the criminal justice system. But if you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the guest I have on today. Well, actually, man, why don't you introduce yourself? What's your name and where you're from?
Okay, my name is Tony Viola. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I was born and raised here. And I was very lucky, big Italian family, went away to college in Washington, came back to Cleveland and started a real estate business.
It sounds like you kind of lived a normal life in the beginning and, had a good family and everything. What on this channel, obviously you're on here because you went to prison. So
yeah,
how did you get led up to the moment of the crime that actually sent you to prison?
Well, what happened was the FBI broadcast a raid on our office, live breaking news. We were completely shocked. We're a bunch of realtors sitting around in suits and ties, drinking coffee, and the FBI comes and with guns, and there was a mortgage fraud task force, a multi-jurisdictional task force, state, local, federal, SWAT teams, pontoon boats in the Cuyahoga River, SWAT tactical gear. And they kicked the door down, even though the door was actually opened because we want people to come in. They jammed the door shut and filmed it breaking down our door on live television with guns looking for mortgage files. But we're not a mortgage company. And they were looking, this was right after the bank bailouts and the first, the economy going down. And they're running around our office looking for mortgage files. And I'm like, we don't have mortgage files. And it turned out that an informant told them that I owned a mortgage company, which wasn't true. Anyway, I was indicted in both state and federal court at the same time, charged with stealing $46 million by doing fraudulent loans.
So, man, like you're obviously, living a normal life, and then the FBI come in guns blazing. Like, right. What was going through your head at that point? Were you like, oh, I'm good because I didn't do anything wrong? Or were you like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, everything. I mean, shock. I was worried about this company. We built this company from scratch. I had over 150 employees, embarrassment, humiliation. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I kept saying to these people, why didn't you just send a subpoena? What are you bringing all these guns? They put our employees in a back room. Some of the employees were literally getting sick. One lady vomited. I mean, it was crazy. They treated us like gang murderers or whatever. And then I was indicted in both state and federal courts simultaneously, which hardly ever happens. The last time that happened was like Timothy McVeigh. He blew up a building.
Yeah.
We did not think we did anything wrong. And the government didn't know what businesses I owned. They said I owned a mortgage company in the indictment. And so I went on TV and said, look, this is a bunch of rubbish. I'm not pleading guilty. I don't own a mortgage company. I didn't steal $46 million. We're an honest business. And there's no way I'm pleading guilty. But that pissed them off like nothing else because they love creating this narrative and having their raids broadcast on live breaking news. And to have the owner of a company going on TV and saying this is nonsense, that really ticked them off. And they decided that they were going to do anything. And the feds will do anything, including break laws, hide evidence, anything to win the case. And that's what happened. And just to fast forward, I was put on trial twice. I lost the federal case, but a whistleblower inside the prosecutor's office came forward with evidence. These people knew I was innocent the whole time. And then the second trial, I proved my innocence using evidence that the government didn't feel like producing because the prosecutors loved all of the media attention. This guy named Mark Bennett, who was an assistant U.S. attorney, and a state prosecutor, Dan Caceres, they loved going on TV and talking about this and how they were going to, if your house went down in value, it's this Tony guy, and we're going to prosecute him to the maximum extent of the law. And they got a lot of great media coverage and they enjoyed it. And then they won the first case, which they enjoyed that too. And then we turned the tables on them.
What do you think the informant, why did he throw you under the bus and go after you? Like, where did all that start?
Well, the informant was a lady named Catherine Clover, and she bought rental properties and didn't make as much money as she thought. And she actually burned one of them down, okay, and collected insurance money. And the ATF thought it was questionable. You know, what happens is insurance companies pay a claim and they say, maybe this is fishy. You just bought this house. There's this big payoff. So they questioned her. And she was going to be accused of burning down this house and getting the insurance money. And the federal government was going to prosecute her. And the state guy got involved, this prosecutor Caceres, and he basically rescues her. He basically says, listen, I could make that go away. You need to help us. Let's get some bigger fish. What do you know about some of these bigger guys? Interestingly, this lady, Catherine Clover, and the prosecutor Caceres ended up having a romantic relationship, and he gave her a lot of undisclosed money. But in fine American justice fashion, you know, they put me on TV as the crook, and then I didn't own this company, and they needed to have somebody who would testify and say that I told them to do wrong things or I was a bad person. So they used her basically as the linchpin of this case. Meanwhile, they're having this romantic relationship, which we uncovered, which is unbelievable, that the prosecutor is having a sexual relationship, Deanne Caceres, with this witness as she's testifying. And what happened was she became a super snitch, if you want to use jail terms, right? She would say whatever the prosecutors needed. So Mark Bennett and Deanne Caceres, they used her in front of grand juries and other proceedings. She was their go-to witness who said, hey, I'm an investor, I'm an expert, I can sniff out what's fraud. This is fraud. These people should be indicted. And that's what happened. And at the first trial, her testimony convicted me. At the second trial, when we had evidence to present to her, she recanted her trial testimony in the first case and said that she lied.
So when you lost the first trial, did you lose that in the feds? Was that a federal trial?
Yeah, I lost the federal trial. I was put in jail. Okay. Before I was sentenced, a whistleblower comes forward, Dawn Pasella, and we can talk about her if you want. And she's like, yo, they've been hiding evidence. I have it. And I'm like, what? And so she gives me the evidence. And so I'm thrown in jail, but she had helped me prepare for a second trial. Remember, I had a second trial coming up. And even though they gave me 13 years almost in jail, they wanted to put me on trial again because they thought they'd win in the same charges. So even though there was state and federal court, you had the same prosecutors, the same witnesses, the same case against me. And then the second trial starts. Of course, the prosecutors don't know that I have all these FBI reports and all this evidence that they hid. And so we basically surprised them at the second trial and basically establish innocence.
Damn, that had to feel good, huh? Rubbing that in their face.
Well, they're just unbelievably evil, these people. I mean, they break the law. It's really win at all costs. When they go after somebody, you know, they're going to do whatever they want to win that case. And they just didn't want to admit that they made a mistake. And plus this romantic relationship with the prosecutor and this witness, you know, they really started covering up a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, it was hilarious to beat them in their own courtroom. And I destroyed their case with their own documents. I mean, that's what was funny. They said we tricked banks into making no money down loans. These banks signed off on all these loans. They were promoting these loans. We basically said it was like going to Starbucks and buying coffee and saying we tricked the Starbucks into selling the coffee. I mean, we disproved their case and humiliated them. But that's not enough. They need to go to jail. Let's put some prosecutors and FBI agents who hide evidence, undisclosed money to informants. This lady, Dawn Pasella, was recording me. She was trying to figure out what our defense trial strategy is. Completely illegal. FBI agents have admitted lying. There's a case going on right now where they admitted that 2 of their affidavits about evidence is false. Why don't they go to jail? You know, in the feds, you get a holiday bag every Christmas. Why don't they get the holiday bag? Why don't we send these people that are sanctimonious and want to pontificate about how righteous they are, but they break the law? And they should be punished. Otherwise, and your intro was spot on, we need reform. But if there's no accountability for prosecutors who break the law, and the FBI agents could manufacture evidence and play games with evidence and then shift it. You know, the feds found evidence that proved my innocence. And so what did AUSA Mark Bennett do? He sent it to a different building called the Joint Task Force. And then he's saying, well, we don't have it because he sent it somewhere else. These are the games that they were playing, and it's all been exposed in my case, all of it. And yet there's still, my conviction hasn't been vacated yet. And we're still not having any accountability from these people who've broken the law over and over again.
So did you end up going to prison then for this?
I was in jail for 9 years until.
In jail?
Yes, I was in jail for 9 years. I was on fed diesel therapy. They shipped me everywhere because when you fight them, they ship you around. And they sent me on planes and with spit bags over my head to Oklahoma City and to Chicago and Philadelphia and Ashland, Kentucky, and federal prison camps in Lewisburg and Canaan and McKean in Bradford, Pennsylvania. And I was in the Cleveland County Jail, and I was in the Youngstown Jail. I was in the Atlanta Jail. I was at some place called Lovejoy. The government can't waste enough money shipping prisoners around, which interferes with our legal work. Okay, if you're in jail, you supposedly are supposed to be able to present your claims in court. What a joke. The Justice Department has all these lawyers and all this resources, and I got an IBM Selectric typewriter from 1973, and they're shipping us around to jail. So when you fight, they would put me in. A reporter called to ask about my case. They put me in solitary confinement for 90 days. So what you have is, remember, who runs the jails? The Justice Department. The federal prisons are run by the Justice Department. It's ridiculous because even if you cooperate with the government, you're in jail. You're in an adverse position to them. So what we have in our country is a Nazified criminal justice system where these FBI agents basically have no accountability. And then the jails help the Justice Department make it hard for me to do legal work. Then I'd get shipped in some van, and then they'd say, oh, well, you missed your deadline. You can't file certain things. But anyway, I got released when the FBI admitted lying about evidence, and the Justice Department admitted lying about evidence, but my conviction is not thrown out yet.
Let's go back just a little bit. So when you're obviously, a member of society, you're doing your mortgage thing, you own a company. When all this happened and you were fighting trial and they were shipping you around to all these jails, how did you acclimate from going from a business owner to a society to now you're in jail? And as you know, that's a different culture. There's different rules. There's different guidelines. It's unwritten, unspoken rules that go on in there. How did you adapt to that?
Well, first of all, a couple things. First of all, I'm Catholic. My faith pulled me through. I went to church. I was at least allowed to do that. Usually, sometimes they'd lock the priest out, but usually we could. That helped. And I made friends there. Secondly, I've always gotten along with people. Thank God, because I like people. And I was a sales guy. So I like everybody. So thank God, because if you're a sour person and you're in those situations, that's a problem. And the third thing is I just shut the F up in the beginning and learned and didn't tick anyone off. In jail, as I'm sure a lot of the people listening know, a little humility and a little respect goes quite a long way. You're in there with men that they're going through an awful time. You'd hear guys on the phones telling their kids, well, I'll be home in 3 Christmases. In the visiting room, kids were crying, Daddy, come home with us. Tell the policeman you want to come home. And it's awful. It's a toxic place. And so respect and kindness towards others. I was the jail lawman. I would type stuff for guys, happy to do it. I was a tutor. I tried to be helpful to inmates, but I basically didn't care if they cooperated or not. I did go to trial. So at the higher security jails, that helped. So the biker dudes and they knew that I was fighting. They thought I was a nerd, but they knew I was fighting. So they left me alone. And some of those sex offenders have a rough time, but they left me alone. And then at the lower security places or the prison camps, you just be respectful and humble to everybody and be pleasant. And that goes a long way. It's the worst experience. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but you'd be surprised how resilient you can be if you have to be.
Yeah. So when you were in there, man, was there ever a time when you were in jail that you were in fear of your life, or you thought something was going to get taken to the next level?
A couple of times there was guys with hair trigger tempers, and there was a guy that picked up the typewriter and threw it because he wanted to use it and I was using it. We used to make times, but there was guys with violent tempers, but for the most part, no. I was never afraid of the other inmates. I was afraid of some of the officers. Some of the officers, it's just a job. They just don't bother you too much. But some did not like that I was fighting my case, and they would do things to make it hard, take the copy machine away, or, they would do things to make it hard for me to fight my case. And some of the officers have violent streaks, and it's just a toxic place to be. But the answer is I didn't have a problem with the inmates, especially because I was fighting And so they kind of like me. But some of the officers were brutal and abused their authority, quite frankly. Put me in solitary confinement for 90 days. I did nothing wrong, no discipline report. We're just going to put you in. You're supposed to get an hour of rec. Oh, we're not going to take you out. What are you going to do about it, bitch? I mean, that's what they would say.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Here, fill out a form, tell the warden. I mean, the warden's walking by laughing that we're in solitary confinement. Ah, Viola, enjoy your time in there. Ha ha. But I'm supposed to fill out an 8.5 or a 9 if the federal prisoners know what these forms are. For what? And so they do what they want. You know, that's the thing. There's no law in this country. These cops do what they want. And in jail, the law is what they say. If they say they're going to toss your cell, they're going to toss your stuff. They're going to throw your legal work away, which they did several times. What are you going to do? And so I just have to have my friends mail it back in. We'd make copies, send it back, send it in. So it was awful, really. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Yeah, for real. And I've seen all that happen. When you were in there, man, did you have anybody, like you said, you know, your friends would mail in stuff to you. So I'm assuming you had a support group that was kind of with you during this time.
I'm very lucky. I just posted something on Facebook about my friend Kara Bennett. She sent us books and crossword puzzles and newspapers, and she'd do her own creative writing and send it in. I'm super lucky. I have a really great family and a great support cast. And my colleagues in my company, I mean, they were very upset that the government destroyed our business, but they stuck by me. And I'm blessed. I'm very lucky. You know, I got out of jail. My friend Jonathan says, here, I got an extra apartment. That's where you're filming me now. Just move in. I said, well, just give me the smallest one. He's like, well, how about the one that's available? My friends start bringing furniture over. I got it. My friend Tracy hires me immediately. You got a job. I'm very fortunate. Most guys don't have a support network like this, especially being gone for 9 years. So I'm very humbled and very grateful. My faith really pulled me through. But it does go to show that if you're a reasonably nice person, you know, people remember that. And if you burn bridges and burn your friendships when you need people, like I was in jail and I needed help, you know, my friend Melanie, she would help me get documents. I had a private investigator. He would stuck with me for years and years. So I'm very fortunate to have a support network, but I knew that a lot of guys didn't. So I was very grateful. And our group that helped me would help other people too. You know, they would help other guys find stuff about their court stuff and mail in documents and stuff. So mail call was always exciting. We got a lot of mail.
So, man, I mean, honestly, you sound blessed that you do have that help. You know, a big thing I like to talk about on this channel is reentry, because what are the guys doing that have nobody that are getting out?
Right.
Do you feel like when you were in there, like when you found out you were getting out, was there anything that you could have done to prepare yourself for getting out if you didn't have the people and the support group? Or where do you think you would be if you didn't have that?
Well, I'd be in a homeless shelter. Let me give you an example. I used to work in reentry, okay, in the jail. That was my job. The guy would have a speeding ticket, right? He got arrested. He's thrown in jail. He didn't go to court. So then they warrant block his license renewal, and there's a warrant for his arrest, right? Because of the speeding ticket. Nobody in the jail will help. I mean, we would do it. The jail law guys would do it. But that's what they're supposed to do. Nobody does this in the jail. None of the staff cares. So there's guys that wouldn't get halfway house because they had a speeding ticket and they didn't have $180 plus the late fees or whatever. So we would do a motion and beg the judge basically to waive the fine or set a court date and lift the warrant. Nobody does this. Guys have child support orders and it just accumulates. You got to write a letter to the child support court explaining you're incarcerated and ask the support to be held in abeyance. Nobody's doing this. So then guys get out and they don't have a driver's license because they got a warrant block because they didn't get back child support. So our system, our country is evil. You know, the threat to America is not the Chinese Communist Party or Russia or whatever. It's the Justice Department. It's the government. We warehouse people in these jails and there's no help at all. There should be all this mass incarceration that we're doing. There is no help. It's a warehouse. It's an evil warehouse. So if you go there with an addiction, you're probably going to leave with an addiction. Okay. I mean, so this is the problem. The answer is the reentry is a joke and it should be done. It should be systematic, but the Justice Department runs the jails. They have no interest in this working at all. They want you to come back to jail. And so we would have that. Guys would leave. I mean, I was in jail long enough. They'd leave and you'd see them back 3-6 months later because they had no money and they do stupid stuff to make money because they didn't have any support. And so it's wrong. The way we treat people in jail is wrong. And if you have any Christian or moral beliefs or any religious beliefs, to see people treated like this is outrageous. But there's plenty of cops to sit in the break room and eat pizza all day, but nobody will help. Nobody will look up things for inmates and help them. There was a just drug treatment program, but you have to have certain requirements, and that the staff won't help you if you have to get documents or something, like you paid a fine or something. They won't help. So my friends would do it. My friend Melanie and Kara, all my friends would do it for guys. But it's wrong that the government and the taxpayers pay. So if you're a taxpayer and you get a paycheck and you get money out of your check, you're paying for this evil, the way we treat people. So the answer is the reentry into jail is a disgrace.
So what do you think needs to be done, man, to help the situation with, like, you know, you said the reentry in that jail you were in was a joke. What do you think as a whole, though, can be done and should be done to stop this stuff from happening to millions of people? The recidivism rates are through the roof, and it's exactly what you said. They condition you to get used to prison and jail, so that way when you go out and they take everything you have to make money and live a life, then you're conditioned to just go back and accept it. What do you think needs to change, man?
Right. Well, jail is an embezzlement economy, right? So if you're in jail and you don't have money, you're going to get a job in food service, and you're going to steal food and bring it back to the housing unit and sell it for mackerels or stamps to buy cigarettes or whatever. And so you learn to be a crook in jail. You learn how to steal and hustle in jail. And so it's outrageous. The answer is we are over criminalizing things in this country. You know, so Dan Caceres and Mark Bennett could go on TV. They put all these realtors in jail. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's too many police. There's too many jails. Jail's no big deal. You know, a federal judge, they'll send 5-10 people to jail, then go have lunch with their friends. It's like no big deal anymore in America. It should be rare that people go to jail. Most of the people I was in jail with had addictions, or they made mistakes, or they needed help. They're not actually criminals. At the camps, at the prison camps, the Los with no fence, you could just stop the next 200 cars going down the road, put those people in jail because they all did something. They smoked pot or watched porn, and the girl was really 17. Okay, they all did something. You just put those two. I mean, there would be no difference in public safety. So the answer is, let's knock down one jail a month. Let's cut the FBI budget. If you tried to cut the FBI budget 5%, they would scream like it was the end of Western civilization. We need to vote for candidates. All of us listening need to vote for political candidates that want to roll back mass incarceration. How do you do it? We have too many laws. There's too many jails. There's too much over policing. All these people, you know, in Columbus, Ohio, a cop shot a guy in his garage. The guy was in his garage with a cell phone. I mean, George Floyd, bought a pack of cigarettes. I mean, there's just too many police, and there's too much over policing, and the people in jail are not, for the most part, a threat to public safety. Some are, but there's way too many people in jail that shouldn't be there in the first place. And by the way, I don't think you can reform it. I don't think you can reform the prosecutors. They're evil. They never do the right thing ever. They won't admit they're wrong ever. They'd rather have me die in jail. They knew I was innocent for the whole time. I've been doing legal work for 12 years. Even though they admitted lying about evidence, I still have to do legal work. They never, ever do the right thing ever. So you can't reform it. The only way to do it is to roll it back. No other country incarcerates people like this. Nobody, nowhere. Russia, China, Europe, Japan, Germany, nobody puts this many people in jail. There is no point to any of it. So let's get these people other jobs. Let's stop these criminal justice programs in colleges. It's ridiculous. There's an entire complex of court reporters, defense lawyers, jail guards, jail transport people. I never even knew all this existed. I was completely naive.
They got all their bases covered, man.
Yeah, there's millions of people making money on this garbage. It has to stop. So how do you stop it? You got to roll it back. I don't think you can reform it.
So when you were in there, man, and you're fighting your case and you won and you got out, like, what are you doing now in your life when you're out, with, obviously it's on your record. You said you haven't been vindicated of the charge, correct?
Right. I actually have 2 more years in jail. So I'm on house arrest right now, pending these court proceedings. If Dawn Pasella didn't give me the evidence that they hid, I would have lost that second trial and had another 15 years in jail. So I would be in jail for probably another 17 or 18 years without her help. And so the answer is, what do I want? Yeah, sure. I want my name cleared, of course. But I mostly want prosecutors, in my case, to go to jail. Why should Mark Bennett be allowed to hide evidence in a criminal case and lie about the existence of FBI 302s? The stupid bank told him that they made these loans knowingly, and I'm on trial for tricking them into making it, and they knew the whole time this was rubbish. Why should Dan Caceres be allowed to have a sexual relationship with an informant? Is that okay? I'm in jail, okay, in a jail cell while he's banging some girl. Why? Because he feels like it? No, I'm sorry. I have got a change.org petition, which a lot of people have signed, which is a miracle. And I got freeTonyViola.com. And I want to do my part to change the system by putting these prosecutors in jail, putting these people in jail. You know, the Dawn Pasella, they wired her up and said, go be friends with this guy and find out what his trial strategy is. That is illegal. Okay. And I don't know if you know the whole story about her, but let me just tell you, what if I bugged the U.S. Attorney's Office before trial to get their trial? Would that be okay? They would have a conniption and indict
you would get sentenced to life if you did that.
Obstructing justice. Oh, yeah. But they can do it to me. No, I'm sorry. So, and the other thing, too, is, and this is from jail, but a lot of guys knew there was nonsense in their case, but didn't have the proof. So what I'm doing is, because I have the proof, because Dawn helped me and gave me all these records from she cleaned out their office, basically. Okay. I have too much proof of criminal activity by these prosecutors, Bennett and Caceres, just to let it go and to say, well, there's no big deal. I'll just go to jail for 10 years. You can ruin my company. I'll just get a job making, I'll flip some burgers. That's cool. And no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. It's not acceptable. So we have to hold them accountable. And the courts don't want to do it because they all were former prosecutors. They love these people. So
yeah,
even when
they're all in cahoots with each other, really, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to change it because you can't get in enough to change it because they all protect each other. But I heard you say before that you have a petition and you're helping other people try to, you know, win cases and get evidence shown. Do you have, I can link that link to your petition in the description of this video. And if you're watching, man, go ahead and sign that petition. It's only through stuff like this that, you know, we can break through and get in there and actually make some changes. But
right. And I want to make one quick point real quick, is that the evidence that proved my innocence at the second trial, it's just not like a DNA case where, oh, Tony didn't rape the girl, it's someone else. The evidence that proves I'm innocent proves 1,200 other people are innocent. This entire mortgage fraud task force that started prosecuting all these realtors, these people are all innocent. Okay. There is no mortgage fraud. There was no scam. These banks were making crazy loans and they knew it. And there's nothing illegal. Maybe it's stupid, but there's nothing illegal if a lender wants to give you loans, even if you don't have any income or don't have any money. And we didn't trick them into doing it. They did it and they knew darn well what they were doing. And the government's abusing its power by prosecuting people like me and saying we tricked JP Morgan Chase into making loans that they were promoting on their own website. So one of the things I'm trying to do, I hope Mark Bennett and Dan Caceres like mortgage fraud, because they're going to be litigating this for a decade. We're going to try to get all of these cases tossed, every one of them. And I don't care if people pled guilty, informed, I don't care what. The premise of these cases is wrong. The government knows it. They owe everybody an apology. Everybody should have their conviction vacated. Everybody should get their attorney fees back. And these people should be held accountable for breaking the law and abusing their power. Now, I don't know if we can do it, but we're going to try. And it's fun to try because these people are arrogant and self-righteous. And you know what? We've got them. We've got them cold. They lied about evidence. They shifted evidence around. There's no question. By their own admission, they lied about evidence. It's their own documents.
Yeah.
And so we got to try. We got to make a big effort. So thank you for helping with the petition.
Yeah, no problem, man. And like I was saying before, if you haven't, you know, click the link in the description, sign that petition, and, you know, only one at a time can we start making some changes. But I just wanted to thank you for coming on the channel. You got a crazy story. Unfortunately, I've heard plenty of these. You know, yours is different though, because you actually didn't do what they're saying and they, you know, went after you because they tried to keep that conviction rate high is really what it comes down to. But hey, if you haven't, hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications on all. So every time I drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that, it's DOC TV and we're out.